Hello and welcome to today's video, which is going to be about my favorite half neutral, half colorful eyeshadow palettes. I've done a lot of different videos about different category of eyeshadow palettes. I recently did a video of my top 5, bottom 5 palettes. Also, I've done my top 10 neutral palettes, so I will link those in the description box if you want to see more. And I have also ranked my entire eyeshadow palette collection, and I have some other ranking videos in my ranking makeup playlist. Now, I know that not everybody is going to agree that these are half neutral, half colorful. Obviously, they are not exactly 50-50, but for me, I do think that there are enough neutrals and enough colorful shades in each of these palettes for me to call them in that category. I was surprised. I thought that I had more palettes that would fall under this category, but turns out a lot of my palettes are either totally colorful or totally neutral. So yeah, I think you get it, and let's just get into it. The first palette I'm going to talk about, I know a lot of people really don't like this palette, but personally I love it, and it is the Natasha Denona Safari palette. So for me, this does have enough shades that I would categorize as colorful, such as the red, a pink, purple, the blue, the green, but I will say the colors in here, they're very subdued and earthy, if that makes sense. These are not bright colors, but they still are colors. And there's definitely neutrals like, you know, the mustard, this peach, a couple browns. I really love this palette, particularly as a companion palette. I love to combine it with palettes that have some shimmers and metallics, but I've also done all matte looks with this as well. Personally, I find this palette very versatile, and I think that's why I love palettes that fall in this category of half colorful, half neutral, because I feel like I can do a lot with them. I could take them very neutral and make it, you know, more conservative type look, or I could really combine it with other colors or just really kind of go all out and get a more dramatic look. So I really like that. I feel like these palettes are really versatile. I have also done a separate video called the most versatile eyeshadow palettes, so I will link that one as well. Next up is the Norvina palette. I do categorize this as half colorful, half neutral because you've got the pinks and purples, but you've also got quite a few browns and a gold. So I can take looks very, very simple, neutral, or I could make them super pink or purple with this. I really love this palette. It's actually one of my favorites. Obviously, I've hit pan on several of the shades in here. The quality is really, really fantastic. This may be one of my favorite Anastasia palettes. So yeah, I just think it's really, really versatile, and yeah, I like pretty much every shade in here, I will say. And I will say with this palette that when it came out, a lot of people said that it was not purple enough considering, you know, the theme and the packaging and all of that. And I do have to agree, it's definitely not an all purple palette. However, I actually think that because it has those other shades, I can do a wider variety of looks with it, because if it really was an all purple palette, then yeah, you're a bit limited and you can only get so many looks out of it. So I actually, again, that's kind of why I like palettes in this category. Next up is this. This is the Natasha Denona Green Brown palette. And the name kind of says it all. There's a bunch of browns and a bunch of greens. And I do think that there are enough greens that I would consider this half colorful. I really am enjoying this palette. I gotta say, this is a newer palette purchase. I got this like a month and a half ago. I got the bundle with this and then also the purple blue one. I'll admit that at this point, I don't like the other one as much. I do think that this one is better. And again, I can do a wide variety of looks with this. You can make it very simple. You can do a neutral glam, and you can do a pretty green look with it as well. So I've been really enjoying this palette. It is incredibly expensive, and I would have never paid full price. The bundle itself was still very, very pricey, but I really love this one, and I'm actually really glad that I got this. The next palette I would definitely put in this category as well, but again, the colors in here, they're not neon colors. So when I say colorful, it doesn't have to be, you know, bright rainbow, the brightest hot pink you've ever seen. You know, I think these are still colorful, but they're just a bit more subdued. This is the Persona Identity 2 palette, and I really love this palette. The more I use it, I am really impressed with it. So the colors in here, again, they're not super bright or rainbow-like. You have this very cool toned blue, you have a dark green, you have this like peachy type shade, you have this purple, but again, you also have a couple browns and a gold. I love the quality on this. It is such nice quality. The mattes blend so well, and the metallic shades are so metallic, I don't even need a wet brush. I am very, very into this palette, and I think the color story is amazing. Again, I could do so many different looks with it, and yeah, this formula is really, really impressive. Next up, a palette that I personally would put in this category is the Colourpop So Jaded palette, because you definitely have some pops of color in here. You've got a bright green, you've got a couple blues, you've got a turquoise, purple, a red, but there are a lot of neutrals in here. Definitely several browns and, you know, mustard. This could go either way. I probably consider that more of a neutral shade personally, but I do think that this is half colorful, half neutral. I really like this palette. I am not very into larger palettes, but I think this is one of the few larger palettes that was done well as far as a color story. There are not repeat shades, and I can do a wide variety of looks, but it's still a cohesive color story. I think that this sticks to the theme very, very well. And it's not just a random mishmash of a bunch of colors. I don't like palettes that pretty much just put every potential color under the sun in there. I just don't think that really makes a whole lot of sense, and it's not as inspiring. So personally, I really love this one. It is one of my favorites, and I've done some really, really bold, colorful looks with this, but I've also done some pretty simple, everyday, easy looks as well. So again, I think this one, you can do so much with it, and I really enjoy that about it. Next up is a palette I have not even yet talked about on my channel, I don't think, but I've had it for several months. And that is the State Cosmetics Bailey Syrian palette, the Venice Fling. I love this color story, and actually I'm very impressed with this formula. I don't often buy things, you know, just to support a YouTuber or anything like that, but this color story really, really spoke to me. I was a little nervous because I had never even heard of this brand, but actually it's an amazing formula. Yeah, I was really into this color story because I do think you have enough pops in here. The purple shade I'm wearing today is this one here, and then I'm wearing the mattes from the Colourpop Lilac You A Lot palette. Yeah, so you've got a red. This is like a pinky coral shade. You definitely have very neutrals here, but you've got this other red and this purple. So every time I've used this palette, I feel like I can do something pretty intense because this purple, this red, and actually this gold are pretty intense. Or I've done a lot more subtle everyday looks with it as well. I think this is a really nicely curated palette. There's only 9 shades, but again, a lot of variety, and I feel like I can take it multiple different ways. I really do like this formula. As I said, the metallics are very metallic. I did have to use a wet brush. I will say, if you want like the ultra intensity with these, I would use a wet brush, whereas like the Persona palette, I don't need to do that. So I did wet my brush today to make this more purple, but the mattes in here blend very, very well. And yeah, again, I think this is a palette where I can take it so many different ways. I can really go all out and do like a purple and red look, which I have done with this palette, and it's beautiful. And yeah, this is like it's a sunset palette, which is definitely the theme she was going with the whole Venice Fling thing. I really do like that you can do some sunrise, sunset looks with it, or you could also keep it very, very basic and simple. Alrighty, and last up is a palette that I do think is a little bit polarizing because I hear people either say they hate this palette or that they love this palette, and that is the Urban Decay Born to Run. Personally, I love it. This is one of my favorite palettes in my collection. I do think this has enough colors to be in this category because you've got a pretty bright orange, 2 purples, a green, a blue. This shade, it's like a bluish silver. That one is probably more of a neutral, but I think that there are enough colors in here that I can do a pretty bold look. Or there's definitely, I would say there is more neutrals in this than colors for sure, because you've got several browns, several copper shades. But personally, I really do like this formula. The only dud in this palette, Wild Heart, that shade is unfortunately not very pigmented. That is kind of a bummer. The rest of the palette is great, but this one, yeah, it definitely lacks pigmentation. This matte purple though is great. This bright orange, gorgeous. Also, these two are very, very nice, and I don't need to use a wet brush to get them to this level of intensity. Same with the more neutral metallics. Yeah, I think that this is a really, really nice palette, except for that one shade. It's a dud, but the rest is great. I really do like it. And again, this I think is a well done palette because their theme was obviously traveling, born to run, on the go, blah, blah, blah. And I think that you could, if you were to go traveling, you could take this palette and you could do some pretty fun looks or keep it very, very simple, or you could do a really glam neutral look as well. The only thing about it that I will say is not travel friendly is the mirror is very heavy. This is one of the heaviest palettes in my collection. I found that a little bit unusual that they were kind of marketing it as travel themed, and it's a little bit heavy. You know, it's not like 50 pounds or anything like that, but I think the mirror could have been a little bit lighter. That's really my only complaint, but considering how many shades there are in here, I don't think the size is crazy at all. So yeah, actually I do think that this would be good for traveling. Not that I'm doing that, but you know, maybe one day. Alrighty, that is it for this video. I really love all of these palettes, and I do think that palettes that have some colors and some neutrals for me are the most useful in my collection because I love colorful eyeshadow, I love neutral eyeshadow, I love a more glam look, I like a wide variety of things. It kind of just depends on the mood that I'm in that day. I also love to do a color on the lid and then a neutral crease. That's a really easy, fun look as well. So yeah, personally, these palettes are definitely kind of my makeup style, if you will, and I feel like I get a lot of use out of these palettes. And yeah, I can do a wide variety of looks. So please let us know, what are your favorite half neutral, half colorful palettes, or just all colorful or all neutral palettes as well. Check the description box. I will link more of my eyeshadow palette videos. That is it. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.